like life-changing hurt. And I'm sure all fighters probably have this in the back of their mind and you try to block it out, but it's like you walking out to a fight and like anything can fucking happen.
Well, yeah, you get kicked in the fucking head.
Yeah, something like that. But obviously you train and you try your best to stay away from those situations, but sometimes you have a brain malfunction, a misfire, and things don't do what you've trained in that split second to get caught. I mean, that's definitely something that is in the back of my head.
I was paralyzed for like 3 hours in 2013. I just got hit weird. My legs got cut out from under me. So I was like sprawling on a cut block, and then the fullback came and hit me in the back of the head, and it just like melted me into the ground. That was the first time I've ever been hurt bad, to where it could have changed my life. And that was like that. Then for every other game, I had to get in like a whole different mindset that I played. You know, I played for another 9 years. I had to like erase that from my memory, because if you think about getting hurt, you're gonna get hurt. My name is Derek Wolfe. I'm a Super Bowl champion and a 10-year NFL vet. Now, after a decade of professional football, I'm focusing on my other passions. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wolfe Untamed. Today's guest is Chad Mendes. Chad was in the WEC, and then he fought in the UFC and had 3 different title matches, a couple against Jose Aldo, one against Conor McGregor for interim title. And then he did some bare knuckle fighting, and he's also a huge bow hunter, just an outdoorsman in general. Part owner of Fens and Feather, which is a really sweet outfit company that puts the celebrities and regular Joes together on hunts. So check this one out. Hope you enjoy it. Sweet, man. Thanks for joining, man. I really appreciate the time. I know life is busy, and you know, it's funny because I know for me after retirement, I thought life was gonna like slow down a little bit, and it's crazy because people are like, oh, what do you do? Just golf and hang out? And I'm like, no, my life is busier now than it ever was when I was playing.
Absolutely.
Because when you're playing, you're focused. When you're playing and fighting or whatever you're doing in competition, you're focused on that one thing.
Yep.
So you're not doing all this other shit, you know. And that's how it's been for me. Has it been the same way for you since you retired?
1,000%, man. It's crazy. And I thought the same thing, like, oh, I'm going to retire and life will be chill. Just get to spend time with my family 24/7. Nope. And I'm guessing you're probably a lot like me. Like I have ADD. Like I have to be doing something or like growing something or trying to succeed at something constantly. And if I'm not doing that, I feel like I'm falling apart, man. Like I just start, and so it's like I start trying to do all these different things, you know, start new companies and trying to grow friends' companies, and you know, it's then the next thing you know, you got 50 million things going on, and you're like, what the hell? So yeah, no, it's definitely been way busier for me too. But man, I keep saying I'm retired, and this is probably a kind of a cool spot to talk about this. I haven't really talked about this to anybody, but have you guys seen the new Global Fight League that just launched? They just signed a bunch of different UFC fighters. And it's a team type event where like they have different teams. You know, I would be on Team LA. There's a bunch of big name fighters on that team. You know, there's different Brazil teams. There's, you know, a bunch of different teams. And they're treating it like they're treating it like it should be treated as far as MMA goes and sports, like retirement funds, insurance.
That's great. Like kind of like unionized.
Yeah. And so they just launched it to the public, like announced it. I don't know, it was maybe a week ago. And there's some big offers being thrown around. So I'm kind of toying with it. But if that is something that I decide to do, it'd probably be this spring sometime. So
oh man, I hope you do. How's your brain? Is your brain good?
Yeah, but then I was a wrestler, so you know I didn't take a ton of damage. Usually, I was on top of guys, beating the shit out of them. So I wasn't one of the guys that sat and just stood in the pocket and banged, you know, and took a bunch of damage. But I mean, I feel like I'm fine. You know, I don't know if you have brain issues, is that something you realize, or you have to have other people tell you that? But nobody's told me anything. So
well, I realized it. I realized that my brain, that was part of the reason why I called it after 10 years. Cause I was just like, you know, playing defensive line, you're in the trenches, you know, you're banging heads every play.
Yeah.
But when I got done playing, I was doing, so I love jujitsu, always trained striking when I was playing, just because it was pass rushing and boxing are very similar as far as creating angles, and hand fighting is like important in the trenches. So when I got done, I started, you know, rolling and training with a bunch of these heavyweight guys out here in Colorado at high altitude MMA with Cody Donovan
Yeah.
and those guys. And Brian Shaw, who was like the world's strongest man, he's like 6'8", 400 pounds. He was getting ready to fight Thor. So the Mountain, he was going to fight. They were going to do a fight, but nobody was big enough to train with Brian. So his strength coach, who was my strength coach the whole time I was playing, hit me up and was like, "Hey," because I was a wrestler. I was an all-state wrestler in Ohio, heavyweight wrestler. So I know how to wrestle and grapple. And he was like, "Hey, will you come train with Brian? We need somebody big enough." I was like, "All right." So I started training with Brian, and it was great. And it was fun because it was another guy that was like big, and he's like 400 pounds, and it was a lot of fun. Well, then of course, my dumb ass is like, well, maybe I'll start fighting. Maybe I'll get into it. And I started training with guys that are actually getting ready for fights and they're hungry. And I took a couple shots, like going down, because as a wrestler, I still have that ingrained in me that I don't have to protect myself from getting punched. So like when we're like going to the ground or something, I don't like cover and protect my face. And I took a shot to the head and it didn't really bother me at the time. But then I got home and my wife was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Like I just was acting weird." You know what I mean? And she was like, I was like, "I don't know. What do you mean?" She's like, "Did you get punched in the head today?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did kind of get punched in the head pretty hard today." And she was like, "Yeah, you're done doing this shit."
Yeah.
She's like, "No more punching. Like you want to do jujitsu, great, but no more punching each other because it's not good." It wasn't good. And Sean Merriman has that lights out thing. He wanted me to fight. And then I talked to Dana and Dana was like, "You could be the only Super Bowl champion with a heavyweight title belt. If you really are serious about this." And so of course my head was getting pumped up and I was like, "Oh," and I do believe that like I could train harder. I could get to myself to that point. But again, I'd have to lose 20 pounds. I'd have to cut 20 pounds to get to 265. And I look sick when I'm like that way. I look sick
Really?
when I'm 265. Yeah. Cause I'm walking around now at, 290 and that's just kind of like my normal weight.
Yeah.
And, so it's just one of those things, man, where your head you have to protect your brains. And, but that'd be sweet, man. If you get into that, cause especially if you can get like lifetime healthcare.
I know that would be super
afterwards. I don't know I wondered if they would do like a yearly, if you have to do it like certain amount of fights to get vested.
I don't know. I'm trying to find that out too. I know each fight, you get, I think it's 8% goes to retirement, 2% into like insurance funds. So I don't
So
know.
is that retirement like a 401k?
I'm guessing, yeah. Like I have my
That's
own
sweet.
of it on my own years ago, but I don't know if they would just fund that or if it's something separate. I'd have to look into it. But this is all stuff that's been just thrown my way the last probably 4 weeks. And I've been kind of going back and forth with it, talking to the wife. She's not a big fan of it either. So
Yeah.
I just, but I get it. It's one of the reasons why I left UFC in 2018 was I just wasn't making enough money for how much I would beat my body up. And I left, walked away, was done, started Fins and Feathers, started some other outdoor companies, and I basically was growing those and completely finalized with all the fight stuff, like done. And then bare knuckle boxing started blowing up through a big offer. And I was like, you know what? I'm still young. Like I didn't leave because I was getting my ass kicked and wasn't able to like compete with the top guys. In my mind, it just wasn't worth, I think I made like 40 or 50 grand my last fight against Alex Volkanovski, who was the pound for pound best fighter in the UFC for a long time,
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, I can make this money hunting and fishing and guiding and not get punched in the head, So did that, walked away from it. They threw some big offers. I came back the last 2 years. I did a fight 2 years ago and I did a fight last year in the bare knuckle boxing, which I really enjoyed. It was a fun time. It was nice being able to just focus on one specific thing while you're out there instead of full MMA, worrying about knees and wrestling and jits and all that.
I was actually at your last bare knuckle fight in Denver.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you walked by me. I was with Cowboy. I was sitting there with Cowboy and you walked by us and I was like, you showed me your knuckles. And I was like, holy shit. Your knuckles were
I think that's the worst part of it is just, I'm always terrified I'm not going to be able to shoot my bow after those things. And it's like, I already got my full season set. I'm like, that's the first thing I do when I get home. I go and shoot my bow and I'm like, all right, we're good. Like there's not too much. That's stuff. But yeah, man, I just still been just focused on the other businesses. And then obviously I retired my last bare knuckle fight. again, thinking everything was done. But it's like I'm 39 years old. I feel like I'm getting towards the end of that window that I can compete in my mind. And it's like these companies want to keep throwing stupid money, and it's, I still love doing it. It just wasn't worth, in my mind, going through all that for what I was getting paid. But if these guys
Yeah.
want to pay like I'm worth, shit, I would do it. I probably still have another year or two before I'm like, okay, dude, you're starting to get too old. Let's step away for real. But
Well, you still look fast and explosive. Like I follow you on socials and everything, and I see you training still, and you still look explosive.
thanks,
So
man. I appreciate
to me,
that.
if you feel explosive and you feel like you should do it, man, I think you should, because I feel this. I'm only 35, and I retired at 32 years old, so it was like, I don't feel old, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
beat down that my body, that's the thing. I could play on game day if I really wanted to. It's the other shit that goes in. It's all the practicing and training for the actual game before, just to get to the game is a grind. And then you get there and play 60 snaps, in the trenches. So I understand what you're saying, where it's like I'm doing all this training and all this time away from my family and all, how many kids do you have?
Got two little girls. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a girl dad too. So am I. And so it's like you're spending all this time away from your kids, and it's like, man, it's just not worth it if it's not gonna like be enough money that's gonna actually change my life.
Yeah, exactly,
So
man. It's like I spent my whole life fighting in pretty much the WC UFC, and it's like it built a platform for me to be able to do things that I'm doing now outside of the UFC. But that money from the UFC, I mean, I couldn't live off that for the rest of my life when I retired. Like, you know what I mean? Not even close to it. So I mean, if I was making that type of money during that time frame and then decided at, 36 years old to retire, and I don't have, if I was smart with my money, not have to do anything else and just spend family time and, have passive income coming in, great. But it wasn't like that.
yeah,
So, well, if these big opportunities pop up, and another thing too is I have some really good buddies that would be fighting on that card too. Um, and it's a team versus team. So I don't know. Like I enjoy that, man. That's fun. I just went to Abu Dhabi and grappled with Uriah Faber. Like me and him went out there and grappled against other guys, and it was just a ton of fun getting to do that with teammates. Obviously we're not living by each other anymore, but I mean, we've been friends for a long, long time. So I'm sure you probably still miss that like team camaraderie, the feel of like competing together and like the brotherhood of that shit. And like, you know, I enjoy it. And like I said, I feel like I'm still in that age class where it's like, dude, if these opportunities pop up, why wouldn't you do it? Outside
yeah.
of just the training, getting back into that full on grind, that's the part that doesn't
Do
sound
you have a
appealing.
home gym? Do you have a home gym?
I have a home gym, but there's so my good buddy Scotty Jorgensen, who used to fight in UFC. He had a gym here in Boise and then sold it to our other buddy. So it's still there. And I've been in contact with them. So I probably just train here with those guys to get ready for it.
Sounds
Um,
like it's gonna happen then.
maybe
'Cause
I've
all
been,
the
I've been
pieces
just
in it.
lining everything up just to make sure that it's even doable. But it ultimately just comes down to me deciding at this point because everything's in place.
Yeah,
So
if the money's right, then I don't see why you shouldn't do it. But you got to make the choices that are right for you and your family. So I,
yeah,
I totally get that. And yeah, dude, when you talk about like the camaraderie of a just a locker room, or like just being in a gym,
yeah,
I was a wrestler, so like I always loved wrestling practice. I always tell people wrestling is the hardest fucking sport I ever did. It was
yeah.
so hard. Like just to be in shape for wrestling, you had to grind so hard, and then cutting weight and doing all like just doing all the stuff. But everybody in that room was doing it with you. So you're not
Mhm.
alone. You know what I mean? You're alone when you go out there on the mat, but your teammates, you grinded with your teammates to get there. And that was just I loved it. I loved wrestling because it was just there's no one to blame but yourself out there. And I miss the camaraderie of a locker room, but that's what I love most about hunting is it gives me I wish I could do it more. I wish I could just be out there all the time, but it's not feasible as like a family man, like when you're just not with young kids, you just can't get them out there, in the backcountry like you want to. But the hyper focus that takes for bow hunting specifically, the hyper focus that goes on, that's where I love that. And then I also love like the camp atmosphere of like being with a bunch of guys. Everybody's kind of doing everybody's there for the same reasons. We're all trying to, harvest an animal or whatever. And, we're just, that's what you get that camaraderie a little bit, but you never can match what it's like to be in a gym with a bunch of dudes that are just grinding and hungry and going after the same thing.
You're right. The hunting camp is probably as close as I've ever been to that though. Like, and that's one of my favorite things. I was just talking about that with a buddy. I went out to Kansas and got a big whitetail and just had a group of buddies that live out there. They don't run an outfit or anything, just family land. And dude, I went out there and it was everybody in camp, and everybody was there to help either look for deer for me or, at camp at night, just drinking beer, BSing. And it was that feel. It felt like a team, you know what I mean? And like all here to try to find a big buck. My job, and I've been training for it this whole time, like using my bow and making sure everything's dialed. I feel comfortable. My job is to get in there and succeed and kill this thing. But everybody's job was to try to locate this thing, find it, and work as a team. And dude, I was just talking to those guys. Like, I think this is my favorite part about any hunt. Like, I have buddies that go off into the backcountry by themselves for like a week at a time and do hunts. And I'm like, that doesn't even sound fucking fun to me at all. Like, yeah, you might, even if I killed a giant animal, which I've done hunts solo before, and you kill something and you're just sitting there looking around like, I'd find myself. Like, this sucks.
It does. It sucks. It's so much more fun when you could share it with people.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's like my favorite part about the hunting. Obviously, bringing the meat home and having that for my family to live off of, but the camp camaraderie and like the team feel when it comes to the hunt is what I love the most about it. So if there's ever a chance where I could go into the backcountry solo or go do something with a group of buddies, I'm 1000% choosing the group of buddies every single time, So
yeah, it's so much more fun.
Oh yeah, I love it.
That's part of the reason why I started filming all my hunts, was because I enjoyed having people with me to share the moment, and to share that with other people. And, like I did a mountain goat hunt with Aaron Snyder this August, and we went up to British Columbia, and we were like, I think it was 350 miles from a road. We were just back there. It was so far back there. And it was just, dude, the camaraderie of that was so much fun. And then like the pack out was just like brutal, it was funny because we were just, we were microdosing mushrooms on the way out, and it's like, we're just like, this sucks, but we're still having fun somehow, it was like it's funny because what I talk about least about that hunt is the kill, and it's like that's how, it was a great hunt, is when the kill doesn't really matter. It's all the other stuff, like getting to, how much all the flights that we had to take just to get into that area, and I'm so big that, weighing 300 pounds, like you can't put me and gear on a Super Cub. Like, it's got to be, we're landed on water and it's a tiny little runway. So I have to fly in I'm the last one to get there. So they fly everything in there and then I get in there last. So everybody's like waiting on me, like, hey dude, we've been here for like 6 hours waiting on you. Like, it's about time, So, and then we got a 14-mile hike, and, and we're doing that there's 3 of us. So we're all doing that together. And it's just like, you get to know somebody really well. And that's where like the best friendships are made, is in those moments. And then I've been in like just regular deer camp. I was in Kansas this year too. I try to draw that every other year. It's so, cause I have a good buddy that has an outfit down in Southeast Kansas, like Independence area. Where were you at? Where were you hunting in Kansas?
We were on the western side. I think Unit 2, I think is what that was. Like, somewhere on the western side. It's more known for like big mule deer. They kill some giants.
Kansas has some big mule deer. Big mule deer.
We found a good whitetail. I mean, and it's crazy. I got just finished doing the edit. My buddy finished editing it today. As soon as we get off this podcast, I'm gonna upload it on my YouTube. But it turned out really good. It was cool.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's sweet, man. That's I grew up in Northeast Ohio, so that's where I found my love for bow hunting as a kid, was whitetail.
That's where I killed all my first whitetail, Ohio.
I have way more self-control with elk and with mule deer and mountain lions and anything, bears, everything I've killed with a bow. But a whitetail, as if it's got horns on it, I start getting so jazzed up, I like black out. Yeah. Like, it's so hard for me to let like 140-inch whitetail to me it might as well be 200 inches. I just lose my mind. I grew up in Ohio where there's giant bucks all the time, but I just get so jacked up about it that I'm like, oh, I got to shoot him. I'm shooting that one. That's the one, So like it's just, I have zero self-control because I get so jazzed up about it, man. It gets me so fired up. And I don't know if it's because you're just like sitting in a tree waiting, it's like the waiting game. It's a whole different mental game than it is. Like Western hunting is it's like Western hunting is more like, run and gun. You can run and gun animals and, especially elk, like you can screw up. You could screw up with elk and still get a second chance.
Yeah.
Whitetail, if you screw up, man, those big bucks, they are not coming back. Like they're just gone. And that's where like the anxiety comes in of like, don't screw this up, don't miss, don't make a noise. Don't blink.
Yeah. He stood up like 120 yards behind us, behind the water trough that we were sitting on. Like our blind was here, water trough's in front. And he was like another 100 yards that we didn't even know. And he was bedded. There was one little juniper that he was bedded up underneath it. When that thing stood up, all you could see was this huge rack, and my mouth instantly went dry. Couldn't swallow. I'm like, my heart's racing out my chest. It took him a half hour to get from there when he stood up to the water trough. And I could hear my camera guy just like breathing heavy as hell. I was like, dude, calm down. Like, you're making me nervous. I'm already nervous enough. But yeah, this thing finally stepped out at 40 and I sent it. But I get that feeling pretty much for everything now. I don't think anything changes. Whether it's a damn turkey, whitetail, elk, big ass mule deer. But I think that's why we do it, right? Like,
yeah, that's what I always say, man. If you don't get excited anymore, if you don't get all jazzed up about it, like you're shaking and shit, like after you shoot, and then you probably shouldn't be doing it. I talked to Ted Nugent about that because Ted's, he kills like, I mean, he hammers so many deer, it's unreal, and every single one of them, he's just like, he treats it, every single one of them, he's excited about, he just gets excited no matter what.
Yeah.
Oh, he kills a doe and he's jazzed up, so it's like, that's how somebody loves it, and those are kind of people that, we have to have in this, I call it a sport. I think it's a sport. It's hard as hell. Like, it's hard to do. It's not something that it's not something you can't do if you don't practice at it. So anything you have to practice to do, I think that you could call it a sport, and it's physically demanding to go hike through the mountains and stuff. Hey guys, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite sponsors, Juniper Mountain Coffee. Coffee without compromise. You're getting high quality coffee without the high prices. This is an American company that stands behind their values. They stand behind their coffee. These guys make some of the best coffee I've ever had. It's a coffee I drink every morning. Juniper Mountain Coffee works directly with the farmers, paying fair wages, and that way you have no middleman. There's no BS, no garbage. You're getting high quality products. So go check them out at junipermountaincoffee.com. Chad, I want to talk a little bit about like your journey to get to this point. We could just do a quick synopsis. So did you grow up in California?
I did. Yeah. Central California has a little dairy town, Hanford, California. And then I started wrestling at age 5 all the way up through high school. Never took a year off, got recruited and went to Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo on the central coast of California. And that's where I wrestled.
Oh, so the wrestling in California is always legendary. You know what I mean? So it's,
yeah.
So were you a state champ? Like like how many times did you win
state? 8th, 5th, and 3rd.
8th, 5th,
Never won it. In high school. In freestyle, I mean, I probably was like a 12-time freestyle state champ, probably 8 to 10 Greco. I mean, that's from 5 years old all the way up through high school. You know what I mean? Yeah. But as far as like collegiate high school, I got 8th, 5th, and 3rd. Was supposed to win it at least once and just choked. Man,
it's so hard. It's so fucking hard. I got 5th. I wrestled my sophomore, junior, and senior year, and I wasn't varsity my sophomore year, but I was varsity my junior and senior year. And I know when I made the state my senior year, I didn't make it my junior year, and I made it to state, and I was like, all right. And I got to the semis. I won my first 2 matches, get to semis, and same thing. I fucking choked. Like he got a penalty point in the last like 30 seconds of the match. I was trying to ride out, and all I had to do was ride out, and he got he was getting out of, he was like scrambling out of bounds, and I was trying to keep a point of contact, and I need him right in the balls. Like just running a can opener. I was running a can opener and just like, I was so tired, and how those matches go, you just get tired. And I just like was trying to keep some kind of contact. I need him right in the balls, and he like over exaggerated it obviously. And The ref gave him a penalty point and an escape, and he beat me. And then I had to go wrestle back to get up to 5th. And
Damn it, man. That sucks.
I know. I was so pissed. It was seriously like 20 seconds away from going and wrestling for 1st and 2nd. And I think I could have won that. I could have beat that guy.
Yeah.
But that guy that I wrestled ended up going and winning. So I was like, fuck, it just sucks. It sucks to I look back on that. That's like one of the biggest regrets I have is that one match. Cause I really wanted to be a state champ. That was something that was really important to me, especially in Ohio. Wrestling is like so big it's way bigger than basketball. It's football and wrestling. That's that's the sport. So did you get a scholarship to wrestle?
Yep. I got a scholarship to go wrestle. Yeah. And then, wrestled there. I was a 2-time All-American. My senior year, I was undefeated the whole freaking season. And my only loss came in the NCAA finals, and it was a shitty call by the ref. Same thing. And then basically I had known Uriah. Oh shoot. That was probably my freshman year in college. My head wrestling coach at Cal Poly would put a 6-week-long wrestling camp up in Tahoe. And so, kids would come in and I think they would do like a week-long camp, and then we'd rotate a new group in, and then they'd do a week. We'd do that for 6 weeks. But all the Cal Poly wrestlers would go there and work for the summer. And obviously we'd make our money and get to still train because we would have practices when the kids weren't practicing. But he also brought Uriah in, who wrestled at UC Davis, and a couple other top-level wrestlers from around California. And so Faber at that point was training for, I don't know, it was maybe his 3rd fight. I had 2nd or 3rd fight ever. And nobody would train with him. So I started doing some jiu-jitsu with him. And he's like, dude, I think you'd be really good at this. If you want to try MMA after your college, like, just know you'll have a place. It was Team Alpha Male is the name of the gym. He's like, just let me know. And so I always had that in my mind, and obviously just kept doing my wrestling career, kept fit, finalizing school stuff. I graduated the next day, threw all my shit in a U-Haul, moved right up to Sacramento. Faber let me move into his spare bedroom at his house. And I think he was paying me $500 a month to teach the team, the rest. Like I would do our wrestling class, which I think was like 2 times a week or something. So I was the head coach for wrestling, made my money doing that, and just jumped right into full MMA training. I trained for 3 months, had my first pro fight, submitted a dude in the first, and I was like, I think I made like $2,000, and I thought I was freaking rich, right out of college. That was so much money, and just fell in love with it, man. I was like, I'm gonna keep doing this. So I think I had 5 fights in that small show, and then Zuffa, who owned the UFC, also owned WEC, which I don't know if you remember. That was kind of the lighter weight classes. They signed me. I got a big deal with like Pepsi, K-Swiss, and just shit exploded from there, man. I fought in the WC for a while, then they merged the two, which all into the UFC. I fought there until into 2018.
You had some huge fights too. Like I've always been, since the early days of the UFC, I've been a big fan.
Thank you.
Especially of you, man, because you just, the tenacity that you fight with, like the way you fight it's so unique because you fight like a wrestler.
Yeah,
you know
thanks,
I mean?
man.
And I think of the way when I watch you fight, it reminds me of like, all my buddies on the wrestling team and how they would, like, if we got in street fights, the way they would fight, it was like they were like punching through the takedown. It was like, and that's how you fight, man. Like the way you attack, I just loved watching that, man. It's just so tenacious and like a honey badger. That's what I was like. You're like a fucking honey badger in there. You just like overwhelming people. So I've always been a bit, even in WEC days, I've been watching you for a long time. So, huge fan and but you had some huge fights like Jose Aldo. You took that Conor McGregor fight on like short notice. Like a lot of people aren't going to do that. They don't have the balls to do it. They're like, oh, I'm not going to take that fight because I don't have the time to train for it. And you did. And, you'd competed so fucking hard in those fights. So, I know you how many was it? 2 title fights that you were in? Was it 2?
3. I fought Aldo twice. So, and then Connor's was for the interim. Yep.
That's right. What would you say that, like, did it feel the same way as like going out for like a big wrestling match when you went out for a UFC fight? Like when you went into like an MMA fight, was it like the same feeling
I don't know, like my NCAA finals match where they like lift the mat up on a big platform and it's just like freaking spotlight,
Spotlight. Yeah.
huge arena and like cameras all around. I think that would probably be the closest to it, but man, it's still not the same. Like I don't go into a wrestling match and it's something I try not to think about, but it's like I'm a realist and I can't not think about it, but I'm not going to get hurt. You know, I might
Yeah.
something or whatever. That's not that big of a deal. I'm not worried about that. But like life-changing hurt is something that, and I'm sure all fighters probably have this in the back of their mind, and you try to block it out. But it's like you walking out to a fight and like anything could fucking happen, you know?
Well, yeah, you
And
get kicked in the fucking head.
yeah, something like that. But obviously, you train and you try your best to stay away from those situations. But sometimes you have a brain malfunction, a misfire, and things don't do what you've trained in that split second. You know what I mean? And you get caught. So it's happened to me a few times, and it pretty much happened to everybody, almost everybody. But um, yeah, I mean that's definitely something that is in the back of my head, and I just try to block it out. But I guess in the wrestling stuff, I never really thought of that type of stuff. It was just a win or lose, like what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. That's kind of how it was with football. We just always, I was paralyzed on the field. I was paralyzed for like 3 hours in 2013. I got hit the way I just got hit weird. Like my legs got cut out from under me. So I was like sprawling on a cut block. And then the fullback just came and hit me in the back of the head. And it just like melted me into the ground. So, that was when I realized like that was the first time I ever been hurt bad,
Yeah.
like to where it could have changed my life. And that was like that. Then for every other game, I had to get in like a whole different mindset that I played. I played for another 9 years after that. So it was like, I had to like erase that from my memory, because if you think about getting hurt, you're going to get hurt,
You can,
and I'm sure it was probably the same with fight. If you think you're going to get beat, you're probably going to lose.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
if that's even it was like that with wrestling too. Like it didn't matter how good of a guy that I was wrestling. If I just in my head thought I could win, I would compete the whole match, but if I wrestled guys that I was like, oh, this guy's way better than me, like it would show, and I'd like wrestle down to my competition and stuff like that. So I was like, it's all mindset.
It is. And I try to transfer that into the hunting world too. It's like I visualize if I have a big hunt coming up, whether it's an elk hunt or archery deer hunt or something like that, like I try to visualize myself succeeding, like getting in that stock and being in that moment of truth, like that inside 50 yards where you're settling your pin, making sure everything's done properly. Like I visualize that just like I would a fight. Like I see myself getting in there, moving with my opponent, filling them out for the first couple of minutes, just filling out speed, power, seeing if I see anything that's like a big error or mistake that they're making right off the bat and then capitalize on it. And I picture that same thing in the hunt world. Like, I see a buck bedded, I'm sitting on him, I snuck into 40 yards. I'm sitting here for 3 hours waiting or whatever it is. And then when they stand up, like that moment of truth, don't fuck this up. And I
Yeah.
feel that. And I feel like when you're practicing your reps in the backyard or wherever it is on with the bow and you're visualizing that. And then when you get in that heat of the moment, you're not thinking, it's just doing. And I feel like that's helped me tremendously over the last few years, especially because there was a long time I didn't do that. And I would just whiff it bad so much with a bow. Like I've missed some big ass animals that I'm like, I want to take my bow and toss it, like. And so the last probably 5, 6 years doing that has helped so much. So I think making that transfer from being a wrestler, fighter, and using those techniques into the hunting world has helped my success with the bow and arrow, especially tremendously. So,
Oh, definitely. It's great you said that, because it was like the next question I was gonna ask you, is because when I played, the night before a game, I literally would just like I'd just sit there and watch film. So we had like an iPad with like film, so I would just watch like third down plays, right? And I would just visualize beating that guard or
yeah,
beating that tackle and then sacking the quarterback. And then what am I going to then jumping up and howl? My last name is Wolfe. So I did a howl after every sack, and I just would visualize that whole thing. So then when it came together, it wasn't like a shock, it was like, oh, this is supposed to happen,
yep,
and I do the same thing on hunts. Like I sit there for weeks leading up to that. And like you said, every time you draw that bow back, you have to visualize an animal there, like a big bull screaming on his way in, and then catching him as he stops, like perfect moment, and just like releasing that arrow. And that's like the main thing that I think people don't do that enough, is they don't mentally take themselves there. So then when that moment comes, they fuck it up, because I've done it.
One of those people. I would just shoot a target, and you're just kind of, you're not really. I almost like would zone out. Like, yeah, I did an hour of practice, but and I did this in the fight world for a long time too, where you just go through the motions, you go through practice, and it's like I didn't learn anything. Like, yeah,
I get better
doing stuff, yeah, and I'm probably in better shape from it, but I don't feel like I mentally learned anything. And I feel like I used to do that a lot with a bow. It's just shooting a square target, square target. I've switched now to, I think, Dead Nuts is the brand. It's not a company I'm like sponsored by or anything, but that's the targets I've used, and they're actual real photos of a full size elk, full size mule deer, and there's different angles. And so for me, it's like when you're shooting, it's visual. You're actually seeing a real animal that you're shooting, instead of just a damn circle on a square that doesn't translate to anything when you're in the heat of the moment with an animal standing in front of you and your heart's racing and you can't swallow because your mouth's so dry. You know what I mean? So I think making the adjustments, those little tiny things, have improved my game, and I think it would probably help anybody. But instead of just going through the motions and like I said, shooting little white dots on the square, like changing things, like the stuff that I just talked about, and it would help tremendously. So I don't know if you just, what do you do for target wise?
So I have a 3D mule deer that I keep in my backyard, like a full size mule deer with giant horns on it. So like it looks like a 200-inch buck. Yeah. So that I just like when and I have a deck that I shoot from, so I can get that downward angle on it too. And then I can move it however I want, whatever angle I want. So like quartering away shots. And I always shoot to kill. I don't shoot, like when I shoot that's the other thing. I think a lot of people make that mistake of shooting to get a 12 ring. And unfortunately on a 3D target, if he's quartering away, if you shoot that 12 ring, you're probably just going to brisket shot that deer, and he's going to live, and he's just going to bleed a bunch, and then he's going to live, and he's going to be fine. So I always shoot to kill. So like, that's why I love, I think there's an app now that they make that you can actually like take it over your arrow, and it'll show the vitals of where your arrow would have went through.
Yeah, I think that's deer cast. Isn't that the juries?
Yeah. The deer cast thing. Like that's,
use that on.
I think that's excellent. Like I think people should be using that more, because the 12 ring thing is great for a broadside shot, but unfortunately, like it doesn't happen like that all the time. Even if it looks broadside, there's still a little bit of a quartering going on usually. Like nothing's ever perfect out there.
That same thing we were talking about happened on the Kansas hunt. And the deer was quartered a little more. I knew it was quartered a bit, but I wasn't sure how much. And I shot him low left, like he was facing to the right, but he was quartered away more than I was expecting, thank God. But I shot low left, and it looked like gut punch, but it ended up going in like the last rib and came out right behind the front shoulder on the opposite side. But we couldn't tell that in the video. And so we just snuck out of there and let him weigh overnight. But he had gone like 100 yards and was piled up, right, open, frozen solid, because it froze overnight. But I was jumping, I was texting the juries, and the Bomars, and I'm just like, dude, what do you guys think on the shot? And jury sent the deer cast app, and I was using that marker to try to see, and I'm like, I don't know, man, I think we might be good. And Josh was watching it, and he's like, dude, you're money. I think you're inside that last rib. I think he's dead right there. And sure enough, the next morning we went in there and he was piled up. So that was a cool app. They sent it was Taylor Drury. I was going back and forth there, but I've never used it before. So being able to just really adjust that sucker on there, and it shows you go through what vitals you're hitting. That's pretty cool.
I think it's great. And I think that would be like you just hitting mitts, right? If you're just hitting mitts all fucking camp and you never actually spar somebody, like you're not gonna be at your best, cause it's just it's different punching somebody in the face,
Absolutely.
It's way different. It's good I think that the mitts are great for like putting combinations together and building that muscle endurance. That's your arena, but I know that when I did it, if I was hitting mitts, I would get that like endurance to keep my hands up, because that's what your hands got to be up when you pass rush. Like that's just how it goes.
Mitts are basically for building hand speed, endurance, repetition, endurance. And then if you have a good coach that'll smack the shit out of you if you're dropping something, teaches you in those combos to keep things up, but it is complete. Like you could look really good on the mitts and fucking suck in a fight. You know what I mean? Like that's this last Jake Paul and Tyson fight. Like everyone was watching the mitt work with Tyson and they're like, oh dude, he looks great. He's going to kill him. And I'm like, no, he's not, man. Unfortunately, like I want him to. I love Tyson. He's been a huge role model in my fight style since I was young. I just knew like you can look great on the mitts. There's camera angle. Like I could tell that the camera work was real shaky and fast in and out. And I'm just like, man, he's just too old. I see it happening. But
that was hard to watch.
Yeah.
That was hard to watch.
It was. I think there's a lot of people that were disappointed, but honestly, good for those two guys. You got to realize it's a business. Like Jake Paul's not fighting anybody to win a title anywhere. This is all money grab. So like people get pissed off at him. I'm like, why are you mad at him?
Yeah, he's
made
smart as hell.
How many millions of dollars to get in there and fight a legend? Like, who cares if he's old? Like,
he made like 30 million.
Nobody got hurt, which is the main positive out of it. And they both got fucking paid.
Yeah,
both of them. Like, I don't care what you say, neither of them. So,
yeah, that's what I say, man. I'm like, hey, you're the one watching the fight. You're still watching.
Yeah.
And if that goes back to that old saying, man, if I got 9 haters today, I want 10 tomorrow, because that means you're watching me.
Right. Sure, man. But
that, it's funny when you talk about good coaches. I first learned how to strike down in South Florida with the Black Zillions with Henry Hoof. So I trained with Henry, taught me how to strike. And then when I started training full time in Colorado, because I would leave and go to South Florida and train, and then come back to the altitude and be like, I feel like I did nothing. I feel like I've not trained at all. I'm so gassed out in the first 20 minutes of this workout. So I just stayed in the altitude because it just made more sense. And then I started training with Trevor Whitman. And Trevor was like, dude, he took my pass rush game to a whole nother level. And I loved work. He's like the best coach I've ever worked with. Like any coach at any level, he's the best I've ever worked with.
That's cool.
As far as like building your confidence and making you feel like you could just I felt like I could conquer the world.
Yeah, that was for me in the wrestling world.
Yeah, like a great coach is everything, man, and it's so important. You as an athlete, if you take a great coach and put him with a great athlete, you should have a phenomenal outcome from that, because that it's just like anything, man. Like even in the hunting world, like I try to go on hunts with guys that know what the fuck they're doing, because when I took a 10-year hiatus from hunting, like I didn't get to hunt for 10 years when I was in the NFL. There just wasn't time. I got 2 weeks off a year, and it was never during a hunting season.
All right.
I'd maybe slip into Ohio for like a late January bow hunt, but still it was, your chances of seeing something were not great, and you're hunting corn. It's not that fun. It's just, so I didn't get to do it. So when I came out, I just was like, man, I got to be around guys that know what the hell they're doing. Like, I don't know how to call an elk. And I didn't know how to do any of that. So I surrounded myself with guys who knew what they were doing. And I've learned so much in these last 3 years that, I'm just super grateful to have had good coaches. I had Mark Montoya as a coach too, as a striking coach. So I've had like some of the best, world-class striking coaches that I got to work with. And, all of them, when I was playing, I was in incredible shape. So they were like, dude, you should fight. They all wanted me to fight. And I was like, I'm not fighting, dude.
Bro. That would have been awesome.
I think I would have been good at it, but at the end of the day, man, like you get out there, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's just a whole different thing.
Big boys though too, like us little guys, we can get hit a lot more because we don't have the same power and weight behind it. You guys, like, it could be dangerous. Like that shit's one big punch could really do some damage, like usually the little guys can pitter patter and smack each other around a little bit. It's not as big of a deal, but yeah, some of those big guys scare the shit out of me.
I wear a 5X glove too. And it was funny because Cody Donovan would have to, like when I was training last winter with those guys, he would be like, he'd have to tell me to pull my punches.
Yeah.
Cause I didn't feel like I was hitting hard. He's like, dude, just the snap of your big ass fist is too much. Like you guys gotta, cause we were just banging with each other. You know what I mean? We're just, he's like, dude, you gotta pull the punches a little bit. Like, let's work some wrestling or something, because you guys are fucking each other up, and it's because you don't realize how heavy your fists are when you're this size. Big Lenny's from, like we just don't even know our own strength, and you get two big dudes in there to start banging. And that's what, so I was talking about doing some of the bare knuckle. I love boxing. Like I love the striking aspect of it and the angles and everything and slipping punches. And so I was thinking about doing the bare knuckle thing. And I took my wife to your fight with me. And she was like, I don't know if you remember the heavyweights before you.
Oh yeah.
They fucked each other up so bad out there. Like, I mean, they just were grabbing each other on the top of the head and uppercutting each other. And that's when she was like, no,
yeah,
you're not doing this shit. Like, you're not doing this.
Crazy, dude. And I think what makes it crazy is because the ring's so small. So it's like, it's not like in UFC or MMA where you can kind of like use footwork to get in and out. You got room. Like if they rush, you can, back out, get angles, and you can kind of move around. Nope, you're in each other's face. Like there's not much room. And so you're like in that striking zone almost the entire time. And it's just in the short rounds or 2-minute rounds. So guys usually are sprinting. I almost wish all the MMA stuff would switch to that, because in my mind, it makes it so much more exciting. Like guys are like, okay, I only got 2 minutes. I'm not going to get that tired and I'm going to get a break. And I got a short amount of time to score my points or finish it. So guys are just like, balls to the wall for 2 minutes,
That's the other thing, Chad, is, dude, those 5-minute rounds fucking suck.
Dude, I know.
Like, it is awful.
I'm looking forward to getting back into the MMA world, but
it's awful, dude. I remember looking up a couple times when we were sparring, and I'd look up and see that there was 2 minutes left, and I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
This is gonna suck, and I'm working with actual guys that are getting ready for fights, you know what I mean? So they're like primed for this shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'm so gassed. I'm dying right now. I feel like I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah.
But it was the hardest shit ever, man. It was the 5-minute rounds were so fucking tough for me. Like 3 minutes, I could cruise, I could do no problem. And you'd be tired, but I could do multiple 3-minute rounds. 1 5-minute round, dude, and I'm done for like 30 minutes. So I can't imagine doing 5-minute rounds.
Yeah, that's
like, that is a fucking war.
that last one was just, and it's stupid.
What do you feel like afterwards?
That fight was the most I've ever felt beat up head to toe. Like it was a war. I think we both dropped each other. We were both kicking the shit out of each other, landing heavy body shots and wrestling and knees. And like it was in Brazil. So by the time we did fight ended, press conference, and I got back to my hotel, it was like 6 a.m. and the sun was coming up, and I was just like hobbling. Like my legs hurt from hips all the way down from getting kicked and kicking. I could barely even walk. I think I peed blood that night. I had, from one of the body shots or something, peed blood. My hands were all sore. Everything hurt from head to toe. Not most fights. I think that's the only one that's ever happened to, or happened in that manner. But most of them, it was a week and I'm back to normal. That one took me a good 2 months to like completely recover from. Like everything was like deep bone bruising. You know what I mean?
That's the hard part about football is the impact, right? So I have all this impact, and so we play on a Sunday, like just a normal week. You play on Sunday, and then on Monday you come in and you do heavy squats.
Oh, shit.
Heavy, like 500-pound fucking squats.
Oh my god!
And because they say it like pushes the lactic acid, and we still have what Toradol is, so we still have the Toradol in our system. So like you're not hurting yet. So this is the way that we keep our muscle in our legs, is by lifting heavy on Monday. And then Tuesday's like your day off, so you do all your recovery. Then Wednesday, you're back in full pads in practice.
Yeah.
And then you practice, and then you lift heavy again after practice, and then you practice again with just shoulder pads on Thursday, which is it doesn't fucking matter. Like, oh, great, I didn't have to put fucking pants on. Like that's all. I just wore shorts. Like that's all. It's no different. Yeah. Literally the same tempo of practice. Like, and then you lift heavy again on Thursday, and then on Friday. You're just in helmets, and then like these, but it's still, you're still you're still putting your hands on each other and going like, you're going like 80%, but it's still heavy. And then Saturday is like walk through, and then you're boom playing again Sunday, and you got to do that for 18 weeks. on top of the on top of the 6-week training camp that you just had, which is like miserable grind out, but
It's pretty beat up.
you just feel like shit all the time. I always tell people, I'm like, dude, if there's never a time where you walk into a game feeling great, like you just don't, like, it's not gonna, nobody does.
Yeah,
It's just, you mentally accept that, like, I'm gonna be like, as soon as training camp starts, just accept that that's the best you're gonna feel.
Yep.
Until February.
We say the same thing in the fight game. It's like there's nobody that's ever 100% walking into a fight. There's always some types of injuries, or you just overtrained a bit, or you try to peak as best you can, but it's like every single training camp is different, and where your body is compared to your age, and like everything's different. So it's like you can't peak 100% every single time at the exact same time. It's like, it's just impossible. So yeah, man, you just got to, like you said, just got to know that going into it and make a mental note and just fucking nose to the grindstone and go.
And the same goes for, I'm assuming the same goes for fighting as it goes for wrestling and football. The only way to get into shape for what you're doing is to do what you're going to be doing. Yep. So the only way to get into football shape is to play football. So like we practice like we play, man. Like we're not going easy out there. Like we're getting after it. So I'm assuming it's the same way as you start getting closer to a fight. Like you're sparring, like you're not fucking around, right? Like you have headgear on and stuff like that, but you're still out there kicking each other and you're wrestling really hard and you're submitting each other. Like you're going as hard as you can because you don't want it to be a shock when you get in a fight. Absolutely. You want to be in shape. You don't want to be tired.
Last like 2 weeks, you start tapering off, but yeah, everything up until that, like you're peaking at like 3 weeks before the fight, you're like going as hard as you possibly can. And then after that, everything starts backing off. But yeah, man, still, I've had fights where like my Frankie Edgar fight, it was like a day or two before we were supposed to leave for fight week. And me and Faber were light sparring and he caught me with an overhand right, rung my bell. And I'm just like, oh, man, where's the last thing you want right a week before your fight, But
that even not only like the damage it does to you, but it fucks you up mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're like, fuck, I got caught, so I wanted to ask you that question because we always would make our scout team guys watch film on the team we're about to play, so that they would I would try to get that. I would go talk to like the guard, right, and be like, hey, he sets like this, right? So like he kicks back and he shoots his inside hand on a second step, or like do you do that with your sparring partners? Do you try to get them to fight like the guy you're going to fight?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as much as you can, but yeah, you definitely do that. You watch tape on your opponents. Usually we sit down with our coach right at the beginning of camp, watch some fights of your opponent, find their strengths, their weaknesses, and then you kind of game plan around that. And then that's what you implement throughout your whole training camp. But yeah, I mean, sometimes like I fought Clay Guida, who's a really good buddy of mine, but if you've seen Clay fight, like his movement and big old hair flopping around and just never stops. And it's like hard. Same thing with Dominic Cruz. It was like very difficult to emulate their style because it takes somebody with next level cardio. Like Dom Cruz and Clay Guida both were something special in that sport. To be able to move that much and stay that energetic throughout the entire 5 5s or 3 5s is nearly impossible for most people. So it's like you have teammates like halfway through, like, holy shit, dude, okay, I gotta somebody sub in, you know what I mean? Like it drains you. So yeah,
it does.
Yeah, we try to do that.
That's the difficult part for sure, is getting guys to like match that energy. All right, guys, I want to talk to you about a product that I've been using for a long time, over a decade. When I was playing football, one of my main staples in my diet was bison. I got my bison from Great Range Premium Bison. They make some of the finest cuts of bison you can get. These guys have ribeyes, ground bison, all the steaks that you want. My favorite part about Great Range is that you don't have to worry about antibiotics or growth hormones in their meats. Great Range Premium Bison is a family-owned company providing bison meat from family-owned ranches around the country. So please go check out greatrangebison.com. So did you start bow hunting when you were young, or like, was that something you got into as a kid? Or like, who got you into bow hunting?
My dad. So I still remember my very first bows. My dad, do you remember the like fiberglass flag poles that you would put on like the back of your quads or something if you were in a dune, like in the dunes, like that? He used to cut those. And then back in the day, fishing line, the braid was like a basically like string. It was like a small rope. And he used to put a slit on the end of the fiberglass pole and then tie the braid, like fishing line braid, and then make me arrows out of the same pole. Dude, I used to go around, this is probably 4 or 5 years old. And I used to go around our neighborhood and there'd be like pigeons and doves on the ground and I'd try to shoot them and I always miss, but I'd set up cans in the backyard and that's my first bow and arrows. And that, like I said, 4 or 5 years old. And I still remember my very first compound bow. It was like one of the cheap, it's a single wheel on each side and there's 3 lines, like one of the big 5 style ones, and that was my first compound. And then my first hunting bow was an old Browning. It was a women's bow because I was so small. Like my dad couldn't get me anything that was at least 40 pounds that was my size. So we got a Browning women's bow, and that's what I hunted with for the first, I don't even know, probably 4 years, 5 years. And I remember saving up. I would mow lawns around my neighborhood because I wanted my other buddy in school had a badass PSE bow, but he had told me, he's like, I think I'm going to get a new bow. And so I was like, dude, let me buy that. And so I mowed lawns. And so I saved up enough money and I bought that PSE and I killed my first deer ever with that bow. I think I was 13 years old.
Dude, that's crazy. I killed my first deer at 13 with a PSE.
No way.
Yeah. That was just like a hand-me-down bow that I fit. And then I outgrew it in like 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I was on the slow side with growing. I was 80 pounds my freshman year in high school. So
holy shit.
I mean, and so I actually used that bow for a long time.
That's crazy.
That was my first bow that I ever killed anything with. And then, hunted with that for a long time and then switched over to Hoyt. And I've been shooting a Hoyt since I was right out of high school, basically. Yeah. And been using those things for a long time. I haven't shot any other bows because it's kind of like a routine thing for me.
Yep.
But I almost want to see what some of these other bows feel like these days. Like I see some of the new Matthews and there was a new one. I think it was one of the primes I just saw on Instagram. I'm like,
did you see? Well, I'm the same. I shoot Hoyt too. And I'm like, I love Hoyt. There's nothing wrong with Hoyt. Like I'm a big, I've never had a real issue with the bow. And
no, never.
It's the super light bow. It's great. And I have a 33-inch draw. So any company that makes a bow that's long enough for me to shoot, I'm excited. But I just picked up that new Mach 35 from PSE. And I'm going to set that up and shoot it because first of all, what's really important to me is working with companies that are made in America, right? That they make everything here in America. And it's the only carbon bow made in America. So they sent me one because I want to try it. So we're going to see, man. Cause to me, all that matters is consistency. If the bow is consistent,
yep,
I'm happy with it, but what you said about wanting to try other bows. I'm the same way, I was looking at that Matthews lift. That new lift is badass. It looks awesome, but they come out with a new fucking bow every year, and it's dude, how much really could they be changing, and it's just like this, competition that they have. So going back and forth, Hoyt and Matthews are the two biggest ones, and they're just going back and forth every year. Oh, we can put the alpha out and it's like, dude, what is the difference in these things really?
I know. I think at this point, it's just such minute changes year to year. There can't be anything major in my mind, but it's like, if a company can change 2 to 3 things that are minute on a bow each year, I think that's a win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything's so advanced nowadays. Unless somebody somehow comes up with something that no one's ever heard of, which, I don't think anyone's been able to do that for a long time. But
Oneida was the only one that did anything real. You know how those bows look? Those Oneida bows. Tim Wells shoots one.
One of the real small compact ones.
It's small and compact, but it's weird because the limb has the cam is under the limb and it folds the limb back. It just looks way different.
Yeah, I have to look it up.
I talked to them and they were like, yeah, dude, your draw is too long. We can't make one. And I was like, all right, fine.
Whatever. Not a chance.
It just looked cool.
You use full length arrows. You don't even cut your arrows.
I don't even cut my arrows, and they're still just I have to watch my finger,
Well,
because that broadhead is right there.
Brad Miller, he played for the SAC the Kings, and he's the same way. I think he has a 33 also, and he's like, dude, I just buy arrows and just put a front on them and call it good.
Yeah, you don't have to do any. We don't have to cut them. Anything. It's great. It's nice. What kind of arrows are you shooting right now?
Right now, so my buddy owns a company out of Canada called Killing Sticks. And I've been shooting his stuff and helping him grow that brand for probably 6 years now. I never had any issues with them. It's not like a big name company by any means, but quality arrows. I mean, I've shot them, like I said, for that long and killed a lot of stuff with them, and they're consistent. And yeah, just helping him. I just started working with Ultra View, and they came out with their new stuff, and I want to try some of those. I need to hit them up to see if I can get a few just to kind of fling and test them out. But everyone I've talked to said they're pretty quality stuff. So
Ultra View makes a good product, man. Like they don't make bullshit. So
their site and the release, I love them. Like
I've been looking at that site for a long time and haven't pulled the trigger on it because I don't know enough people to shoot it to know, because it's expensive. It's an expensive site, so I don't know enough guys that actually shoot that site.
Mm-hmm. So I was buying hot spot hogs for a long time, and I'm a single ping guy. I usually single with a double dot. But one of the things that it kind of bummed me out with the spot hog is a lot of the slop in it. There was a lot of
slop, dude. I don't like that either, and it's fucked me. It fucked me twice.
Really?
All that slop, all that moving around. There's all these levers and shit going on.
Ultra View, everything is like tight, very like compact. Quality, like the movements of it they're easy enough to use, but there's some resistance. You know what I mean? It's not just like sloppy flopping around. And they're easy to sight in, but I have nothing but good things to say about that. So I've tried to switch all my buddies over to them. Like, dude, if you have the money, it's worth it. It's something you're gonna use for a long time. Like, it's quality stuff. So
yeah, I'm gonna check that out. Maybe I'll toss that on that PSE.
What's cool too is they make it to where you can pull, like if you have a single pin, you can also buy one of their multi pins, the housing on it, and the housing rolls down to the bottom, and there's a lever, and you could just pop that whole housing off. So say you already have that sighted in with that tape, and you're going to Africa, and you need to bump it up to 80 pounds, and you just take that housing off, and there you can adjust and put a new housing on. It just basically pops right back on there. That's sighted in at 80 pounds. So you can have multiple setups with one sight, if that makes sense.
I wonder here's a question for you. Can you set it up for like target shooting with your field tips, and then set it up for like a broadhead? Can you have a different because that's where I always just pull 80 pounds. I just keep it at 80. I don't ever drop the weight on it. Because it's pulling 80 pounds is fucking easy for a guy my size, so it's not I don't have to struggle with it. If I did struggle with 80 pounds, I wouldn't shoot that. I'm not like an ego guy. Like, it's just too easy for me to pull back. You don't need more than it takes 40 pounds to fucking penetrate, like,
yeah, especially with your draw length, dude, your kinetic energy is probably insane.
Yeah. It's
you
wild.
Probably on everything at like, even if you hit it at 80, it probably blows through it.
Well, that's the problem with these foam targets is I'll blow through like a block target and it'll be sticking in a fucking tree when I'm tuning my broadheads, at like 60 yards. And it's just like, oh shit, because it is, man. It's a lot of energy going out of there. And I shoot a 400 grain arrow. So it's, it's just, it's that's the other hard part, is finding like the right broadhead that can handle that kinetic energy. Right. Because a lot of those broadheads, like, sometimes they hit and they just fucking bend. And they're just not made right. They're not made for that kind of energy to be going through shit. But there's a ton of good broadheads out there that, I use Severs, I use Iron Wills, I use Vantage Point. Like, they make good ones. Like, there's all kind Bomar's broadhead is a good fucking broadhead.
Dude, I use those all year this year. I killed everything with those things. I killed
those Beast broadheads.
Yeah.
Oh, they're great.
I was never really a fan of the mechanicals that, had some mishaps with them hunting, stuff that wasn't favorable. But, I ended up trying those. I was watching Josh talk about how freaking sharp they are. And I like that bone avoiding technology. And I think I have a short draw. We had like a 26-inch draw. So I usually don't get pass-throughs if it's a big cutting diameter. So I was shooting really small fixed blades just to get most of the weight penetration or all the way through. especially on elk, it would be like, hit the other side and just stop type thing. But dude, those beasts, I did a blow through on a wild pig at like 50. I was like, holy shit, that has never happened to me. Complete pass through on my Oregon elk. It was only 30 yards, but even still, I've shot like the rages. I remember shooting a bull off at 20 yards and it just buried to the fletchings and, didn't even stick out the opposite side. I'm like, dang, dude. But yeah, pass through on that bull. I hit my Utah bull in the shoulder and it blew through the shoulder and killed it. And then I killed that a mule deer in Colorado, smoked it, and then that whitetail in Kansas passed through at 40. And so
yeah, those things are, when you talk about the penetration trying to get pass throughs, that happens with the sever. I shot an elk at perfectly broadside at like 42 yards and could not believe that the arrow didn't. I mean, it was right behind the shoulder, like should have passed right through him, and it didn't go through him.
dang.
And I was like, what the fuck? That's crazy. It should have went right through him. And it didn't. And I was with a sever. That was the only, it still killed the bull. Like he still, I got a ton of penetration, but I still would rather see that arrow go straight. Like if I'm hitting just all soft vitals, it should go straight through anything that I'm shooting at.
Yeah.
So I had no problem with that, but you're right, man. Like the mechanicals are sketchy, but that beast broadhead, it doesn't shoot like a mechanical.
It doesn't.
It shoots like a fixed blade and you don't have to tune for it.
Nope.
That's the other great part.
Doesn't change anything. Yeah. I did in 4 hill points and they come with a practice tip and I obviously was testing that out before the hunts and I'm like, I'm not changing anything. It's money. And what's great is like, so that point, it's spring loaded just for people that don't know, but like say you have the ribs that are separated like that. When it hits and goes through, it compresses down to go through the ribs and then opens back up once it gets through. Like that is freaking genius. I love that.
It's crazy that no one has come up with that idea yet. And then Josh is crazy. I shoot his nose button too.
Yeah, nice.
Because I love that anchor point. Like I love having that anchor point.
I had a buddy who was telling me, he's like, you got to be careful. I shot it once on one of my setups and I enjoyed it. I don't know why I just haven't put it back on, but he's like, it made me bleed. He's like, I was shooting and I put too much nose pressure on it. And I didn't realize that my nose was dripping. When I would shoot, it splattered blood on my sight house. Looking like, what the hell is that? He's like, didn't realize it goes like this and his nose was bleeding. But that's what it's supposed to do. Like you're not supposed to put too much pressure on it,
Yeah, it's supposed to, and it's pointy. So you just like feel that point and that gives you that anchor point. The thing you have to be careful with that nose button is bringing your head to it though.
Yeah.
Because I'll pull back and then I'll bring my nose to it sometimes instead of bringing it to my nose. And I've noticed that I'm like, damn, why am I shooting so far left right now? Like what's going on here? And it's, because I'm not anchoring right. And it could be just because I tweaked my shoulder or something that day. And I'm just not pulling all the way back. I'm just, because even at 33, I still have to keep some bend in my elbow to like get the bow back to where I need it, without having to like come forward on it. It's just such a repetition. It's like golf where you have to have your swing has to be the same every time. And then I think enough people don't practice from like the situations you're going to be like, cause I'm so tall. I got to be down on my knees a lot when I'm out there. So like, I can't just be standing up. Like any animal sees something that's 6'6", just standing there, I don't care how much camo you have on, like they're going to be fucking spooked out from that, so
I can't imagine you up in a tree standing. Holy shit.
I use a tree saddle a lot too. I hunt from a tree saddle a lot because yeah.
Oh dude, that's sketchy.
Well, it's so sketchy. It's so sketchy, but I feel safer in that than I do on like a lock on because especially if I'm going to like somebody else's spot and I haven't got to set it myself, because I just don't trust it, man. Like these things are rated for 300 pounds, right? Like we're pushing the limit here, right? And I will say that like when you use a lineman's rope to go up and set your sticks, and then you're always tethered to the tree. So that's like, and those tethers are rated for like 1,600 pounds or something like that. So like, I'm not worried. That's where I do feel safe. Like you can hang upside down in that saddle. Seriously. I've done it. You can just hang upside down. And then like I had a deer, I hunted one time in January in Ohio it was like one of the first, when I first started hunting out of them, and it was in January. So it was like crazy wind. It was like 30-mile-an-hour winds. And I was up in that tree and I was just swaying all over the place, and I felt way safer than I would have been in like a lock on, honestly. The only thing I don't like about saddle hunting is that it's hard to shoot. It's hard to shoot consistent out of it, because you have to practice that. Because think about it, it's way different than standing straight up and then leaning down. You're like, you have to like cam into that saddle. So you have to cam into it. It's just a whole different setup. And I've missed deer. I missed shot like 2 of the biggest deer I've ever had an opportunity to shoot because of that damn saddle. Because I just didn't practice out of it enough, and I brisket shot a buck, and then I shot another buck just a little too high and hit him in no man's land at like 20 yards. Like it should have been a smoked, like he should have been done. And I was just like, what the fuck happened? And we went and watched the film, and it's like, yep, I hit him high, and then I hit the other one high and forward. And it was just like, yep, same thing. I'm shooting high and forward when I'm out in that thing. So in the moment you forget to adjust for that, and then it'll get you. And you got to practice those angles. I think people need to practice more from like their knees, practice from like standing on something that's like, even if you just go out in your backyard and you're shooting, you just make it so that like your left foot is like up higher than your right foot, or your right foot's up higher than your left foot. Like just change the angles so that when you get out there and you're in that situation, you can adjust to that. Cause unfortunately, bow hunters wound more animals than anybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're out there just slinging arrows all the time, and it just, we're wounding animals, and unfortunately you get a lot of gut shots, and that animal just, you never find them. They take 2 weeks to die. And, it's just, you got to do everything you can ethically to make sure you're making good shots.
Oh yeah.
Hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by Black Buffalo. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches do not contain tobacco leaf or stem. What they do contain is a ton of flavor, and they're packed with pharmaceutical grade nicotine. The magic of Black Buffalo is they discovered a way to make cured edible green leaves behave like the texture of tobacco. And they add food grade ingredients for industry classic flavors. You're in good company if you roam with the Black Buffalo herd. The business was built by dippers with decades of smokeless tobacco use. They manufacture their tobacco alternatives with respect for those products that came before them. Bold flavors, full pouches, metal lids, and a brand that stands for something, American. Their products are also proudly endorsed by brand ambassadors such as MMA Hall of Famer, Cowboy Cerrone, NASCAR champion, Brian Blaney, rising country star, Larry Fleet, and Rob O'Neill, former U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6. So if you're 21 and older and you consume nicotine or tobacco and you want to join the Black Buffalo herd, head over to blackbuffalo.com to learn more. You can order nicotine pouches online, and they ship directly to most states. Or you could check out their store locator, purchase pouches at thousands of retail locations around the country. Black Buffalo, an American brand, pouches worth respect.
So when you got done fighting, you were already hunting while you fought, right? Like you just kept hunting, right? Which is awesome that you got to do that. I'm jealous, but because I love bow hunting so much. I like rifle hunting too. It's not like, I've got a sweet 300 PRC. I love it too. It's funny because my buddy, Bo Nickel, right?
Yeah.
So Bo. So Bo and I hunt together a lot, and his uncle has a really nice place down in on the western slope of Colorado. You have to come out this next year and maybe share camp with us. Get yourself an over the counter elk tag. And I've leased a place. It's fucking badass. It's unreal. It's got like 400,000 acres of BLM surrounding it. It's so nice. It's landlocked, and there's big bulls out there. Good. So that'd be awesome to have you. I'll have Half-Face Blades out there with me. Snyder will be out there. So we'll put like a really cool camp together. And Bo will be there obviously, but Bo and I were talking because we're like, alpha dudes that want to fucking kill shit with bows, and his uncle every year never misses and always fills his tags. And it's because he hunts with a rifle. And he's like, you know what we call bow hunters, right? And I'm like, what? He's like, hungry.
Yeah. Hungry.
Because me and Bo were trying to kill these mule deer. We were hunting these mule deer, and there was 5 of them in a group, right? So we just were like, basically like we'd spot them, take turns going in on stalks. So it took us like 3 days just to find them. We finally find them. Bo goes in to put a stalk, fucking screws it up, he's still figuring it out.
Yeah.
screws it up, busts them. And I jump in the truck and take off down the road and go set up on them, take my boots off and go like half a mile without boots on in this nasty shit. And it's so hot. And I sneak up to like 32 yards from these things. There's five shooter bucks, 5 of them under this juniper.
Okay.
And there was just like a cedar tree right in front of me and there was only one little hole that I could shoot through. And I was like, I was talking to my camera guy. I was like, I'm going to try to shoot him through this hole. He's like, don't do it. And I'm like, why? And he's like, there's a fucking stick right in the middle of that hole. And I'm like, no, there's not. He's like, yes, there is, motherfucker. You're going to fucking miss him. Don't do it. And I was like, all right, fine. So I waited. And, the whole time I'm like, I can make that shot. I couldn't see the stick there. I just couldn't see it, and that buck, the big 5x stands up, dude. And he's standing there and his heart is right there in that hole. And
yeah,
I'm just like, I'm going to fucking do it. And he's like, don't do it, dude. I'm telling you, you're going to fuck this up. Don't do it. And I was like, so I didn't do it, dude. And that buck, they just like worked the other way. And I had never had an opportunity. That was I had one chance in 5 days to shoot that deer and I didn't do it. And then after he left, I started dog cussing. His name's Levi. He's a really good friend of mine. So I'm like, you fucking asshole. And he's like, you're a fucking moron. He's like, you would have fucking missed that deer. I guarantee it. He's like, go up and look in there. And I guarantee you'll see a fucking stick the size of your pinky hanging down. And sure enough, I go up in there and he was right, man. There was a fucking stick about the size of my pinky that was right in the middle of where I needed to shoot. And that's enough to make your arrow fucking go. I would have hit it for sure. My fletching probably would have hit it. If anything, my fletching, and it would have dropped my arrow down and I would have missed that fucking deer, or I would have gut punched it and never found it. And we were hunting on like tight quarters where like we only had like 300 acres right there. And he was on the edge of that. So I know I would have shot him and he would have ran to the other property. And they wouldn't have let us recover. You know how people are. They're not going to let you come recover it, especially if they like to hunt. They're not going to let you recover. So it's just one of those things. Yeah, but dude, the invitation's open. I'm trying to put a group of guys together to come out there with us. We got a cabin up there. It's a really nice spot, man. It's an over-the-counter elk unit. So if you want to come, it's going to be me, Aaron Snyder, Andrew Arabito from Half Face Blades.
Oh, Andrew.
Andrew? Yeah. Beto's, well, he does a lot of stuff with Fins and Feather, right? Yeah. Cause I want to talk about Fins and Feather real quick before I let you go. Cause I could talk hunting with you fucking all day long, but we'll save that for camp. But if you're down to come, man, like just pick up an over the counter elk tag sometime in when the season starts. Like we'll just get up there and we'll just get after it and try to get us all, a boulder. Cause we have 2 different springs running up there. So we have 1,000 acres to ourselves. And then we have 500,000 acres to play on, and it's loaded with bulls, man. And they told me that you could take 5 or 6 bulls off there every year and it would be fine.
Nice.
So, I have that lease for the next 3 years at least. And I was like, let's take full advantage, man, and just get as many people up there that we can. Cause we have an outfit that Bo and I and his uncle we're kind of like coming together on. It's called 70 Outfitters. We do a lot of bird hunting. And then we're going to start running big game hunts down there. He's got so much land. So if you're down, man, would love to have you.
Yeah.
If you don't, cause I know it's tough because you get booked out, you're booked out for fucking ever, so.
Oh yeah.
Maybe
I'm doing my personal schedule and the whole Fins and Feather schedule, and I got to be on all of those. So yeah.
So let me know what dates that you have open in September and we'll just fucking make it work.
I don't know if I have anything in September open already. So I have our Oregon Fins and Feathers hunt. My sister's getting married on the 13th, which I told her no September.
That's a terrible idea.
I know, dude. And then I got to do Mexico elk hunt right after that. And then I'm squeezing in a rifle mule deer hunt on our Utah spot in there too. So
yeah.
There might be crammed this year already or for next year. But
well, if it's not next year, then we'll do it the year after.
Yeah.
It's open invitation, man. You're always welcome.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
Let's talk about Fins. I wanted to ask you, do you own Peak? Are you part owner of Peak?
I am not part owner. So I own my Mendes mills. So like those are my recipes. Peak Refuel is a brand that like they have their own stuff. So like they have all their own meals, but the Mendes meal part of it, like those are my recipes and stuff like that. So the Money Punch, which is like a clean pre-workout energy drink. And then I have all my Mendes meals, like that stuff's mine. But the Peak brand itself is not, that is not mine. No, but that's a company I've helped grow. I mean, so it's kind of a
I
funny.
love Peak. I love
Oh,
those.
thank you, dude.
Listen, dude, they've saved my ass out there so many times because, dude, I'm fucking busting through calories like you would not believe.
I would imagine. Yeah.
So I need that I eat, dude, on an elk hunt. Seriously, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll eat like the granola one, right? And that's the first thing I'll eat. And then I'll go take my fucking brick poop, you know?
Oh, yeah.
and then like probably at like 10 o'clock, like after everything kind of settles down for a second and they start to bed up, I'll eat 1,000-calorie Peak meal. And then I'll go hunt for a couple more hours and hike. And then I'll have to eat another one because I start getting like depleted and like lightheaded and stuff. And it's just like, so I carry 3 of those on me and then I'll come back at camp and I'll eat, like, I'm usually wall tent hunting or I'm sleeping in my truck. So I might eat 4 of those a day. You know what I mean? So like I'm hammering Peak meals.
We'll send you some.
Please, you would save me so much money on Peak meals. I'm a huge advocate because like nothing compares to them.
Yeah.
Mountain House, none of them, they don't compare. Especially calorie wise, good calories, you know, like, and there's a lot of salt in them, but you need that when you're out there. Just like,
absolutely. I know.
That's the other thing. I got to carry so much water. I have to carry so much water just cause I'm sweating I don't care if it's 20 degrees or if it's 70 degrees. I'm sweating my ass off.
I'm the same way, dude. Like same way. Yeah.
So I love Peak, man. I'm a huge fan of it.
I don't need that many calories, but I usually do two in a day on like a solid backcountry hunt where I'm like hiking and climbing all day long. But I mean, shit, you probably need 10,000 calories a day, I would imagine, with your size.
Yeah, I'm lucky to get that, you know. That's what I was eating when I was playing, was 10,000 a day. So like for example, this year in September, I had a day that was a fucking grind, man. It was 16 miles and 4,200 vertical feet in one day. And I ate 3 Peak meals and I was still fucked up. I was like, dude, I'm still fucking starving, you know?
Give me a whole pizza.
Yeah. I need like a whole pizza when we get back. And I ran out of water, all this shit. But I found the elk and that was what we were trying. I couldn't find any bulls. And I was like, dude, we're not seeing anything down low. So we just had to go up and we just started climbing. Dude, we went 16 miles, 4,200 feet.
Jeez.
All the way up to 12.5. And we found them. There were bulls everywhere up there. And then I got busted twice on the wind on probably a 370-inch bull. Busted me twice, dude. And then I left for my father-in-law's birthday and then came back and the muzzleloader hunters had fucked it all up. It was just, they'd ruined it. It was ruined. They were all called out and they didn't want to talk anymore. And it was tough, but Peak meals. Yeah. I didn't know you guys made a pre-workout.
Yeah. So I got to develop my own. So I know how bad all these fake sugars and all that shit is. And it's like all the dyes and synthetic caffeine and all that. And I was still drinking all that shit daily, just feeling guilty every time I was drinking it. So I sat down with them and created one that was all natural. So you use coffee, caffeine, yerba mate caffeine, all the colors are from fruits and vegetables. The sweetener is a fruit sweetener, you know, so there's nothing in it that's synthetic. And it's something, that's what I drink daily. Usually have my morning coffee and then like before my workout mid-afternoon, I'll pound one of those. It's 185 milligrams of caffeine, but it's
perfect.
Clean. Yeah. So yeah, it's called Money Punch.
I'd love to try it if you're down to send me some, man.
I got you. You need to just let me know what your favorite meals are and I'll just tell them, I'll just send it over and have them ship it all over.
There's not one that I don't like.
All right, perfect. I'll just tell them to send you a big box.
I was in New Mexico and all I took with me was the chicken and broccoli and the chicken, cheese and broccoli. And I ate those the whole time. I didn't care. It was still good. Like they all taste good. Not one of them tastes like shit.
Yeah.
Like it's all good. And then they have the desserts now. The desserts are fucking unbelievable.
I know. I know.
It's like crack, dude. It's terrible.
I get psoriasis all over my body. So I have to like really watch what I eat. I've tasted them. Obviously they're phenomenal, but it sucks. I can't just eat them every single time.
Is it the sugar that fucks you up? Or?
Sugar definitely messes it up, but
yeah, those brownie bites. Holy shit.
Yeah. Dude, those are so good. And the cookie bites too.
then, and it's so easy to make them, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you don't have to carry a lot of shit. Right. And what I do, here's the trick that I do is I open those peak meals and push all the air out of them and compress them because it takes up less space then. So then I can carry 4 of them and it's not it's not a big deal. And then I carry that with my jet boil and it doesn't take up hardly any space, super light. It's perfect. So what made you want to start Fins? Like, how did Fins and Feather come about? Because I think that's badass and it's,
Yeah, thank you, man.
I've been waiting for my fucking invite, but
yeah,
whatever.
dude, let's go. No, I always, honestly, I just feel bad asking people yeah, they're fun trips, but I know how busy everybody is. So it's, we have our guys that are always like, oh, I'll go do it. And then I just need to get better at like reaching out to new people and asking. But basically what it is, like I was fighting still, but was trying to figure out a way to make money after fighting. Cause we don't, like I talked about earlier, we don't get a retirement. Like once you're done fighting, the money stops coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, what could I do in the outdoor space? Like I love hunting. I love fishing. I don't mind guiding, but I don't want to be guiding year round. Like guiding, it's fun, but I want to be able to hunt also. Like how could we do something that basically encompasses all of that? And so we came up with the idea of Fins and Feathers where, we basically team up with outfitters that already have stuff up and running. So it's a mix of things. We also lease our own ranches and like I will go and guide on those. And some of the other ones we work as like a booking agency. So say it's like Opal Butte Outfitters in Oregon. They already have, that's the outfit. That's their own outfit. So basically what we do is we lock in a week hunt with them every year and we are allowed 7 spots. So we sell our 7 spots with them and then I'll go there and I'll hunt in camp also with these guys. And then, or like sometimes I'll put Dan Henderson or Uriah Faber, or whoever it may be. We basically book the trip and then add one of our athletes on the trip to go hunt and camp. And it's like, this, like we talked about it earlier, the camaraderie in camp is unlike anything else. Like you can't, someone comes and does a meet and greet and they get to meet you. Like they shake your hand, maybe take a picture and it's like maybe a minute of small talk and that's it. It's like being able to sit and camp with you, maybe share some drinks, tell stories, how the day went, and celebrate when people are successful. That is a bonding that you will get nowhere else, with that human being. And we wanted to create that feel somehow, but also implement the hunting and fishing to where I still get to hunt, my friends still get to hunt. And then the people that book, they're new hunters, never done it. We teach them, they learn, like what we were talking about earlier, like someone that's better than you at hunting, you see them and you learn from them. Or they're pros and they've been doing it forever and they just want to meet Derek Wolfe or Chad Mendes or Uriah Faber, whoever it may be. Like they get to book these trips and go make it a super unique experience. So we launched Fins and Feathers in 2015. We put our first year-long schedule together and I didn't know how it was going to go. Booked everything out. And dude, I just fell in love with it. That 16 was our first full year. And it was like, I had so much love in my heart from doing that year. I felt so accomplished. I felt like this is what I'm supposed to do in life. Like, I feel like I've created a cheat code. Like I get to hunt still. I make money doing it. And I get to hang out with a bunch of cool ass people who love hunting and love fishing and love fighting or other sports. It's like all my same passions. We all share the same shit. And it's like, I feel like I've done something in that I shouldn't have done, I almost feel bad taking people's money and making money on it because it's so much damn fun. But, we do tuna fishing trips where we'll book out a full boat that's, anywhere from 20, 25 to 30 people. It's 100+ foot boat with bedrooms down below. You got cooks on board that cook you 3 nice ass meals every day, poke, sashimi, whatever it may be. Bring sushi chefs on board that'll do one night, like a huge big old spread, catching big bluefin, yellowtail, drinking way too much tequila and just hanging out in the sun. Like I shouldn't be getting paid to do this. Like it doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? And so we launched it and we've been doing it since, each year kind of growing a little bit, or we kind of mix and match trips. Like we'll have our core staple trips that we do every year. And then we'll usually add a couple trips, new things here and there each year. And, I've been doing that 2015 till now. And, at this point we have a ton of return clientele that's just going to book the same trips over and over again. So
yeah, that's what happens. If you're running a good operation, that's what happens is return clientele. I was going to ask you if, maybe you could, maybe Fins and Feather could pick up 7T Outfitters as one of the outfits that you send people to. Because
absolutely.
I have a rule when it comes to hunting. I have a saying, it's the three things that matter to me, right? It's the hunting, the people, and the food. You have to have two of those three, because you can control two of those three things, right? You can control the people that are there, and you can control the food. The hunting, you can't control, right? So if the hunting sucks, the people and the food better be good. You know, and that's where the experience is really what matters to me. So that's what, 7T Outfitters is about, is, it's the experience of the hunt. You're going to get a chance at, quality animals, and you're going to have a hell of a time. You're going to hang out with cool people. So
yeah, that's what we base our business model on. It's like, you can't control the hunting or the fishing. Like, obviously we try to use people that have the highest success rate of quality stuff. But I know, like, that's out of our hand unless it's a high fence ranch, which, we're not doing that. So we can't guarantee anything, but we try our best to make it as most of a successful trip as we possibly can. But you said the camaraderie in camp, like, we make sure we knock that out of the park. The food and just having a good time. And then the hunting almost is like a bonus, I feel like,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we do too. So yeah, let's link up, dude. That'd be sick.
Yeah, that'd be badass. I think it would be a great fit. We call him Uncle Mike, but his name's Mike Metcalf, but he runs the show down there, dude. And his one-liners are so fucking good. And the food is phenomenal. Like, it's just the environment is just great. And they do bird hunts, they do turkey hunts, they do elk hunts, geese and duck hunts, like literally everything. So I'm plugging my own deal here. I'm not a part owner of it yet, but I'm like, it's something that owning an outfit is something I really wanted to do, because I've been to shitty outfits before and been like, man, this is not how you're supposed to run it. This is not like I've killed big animals and been like, man, that wasn't fun at all.
Yeah.
Like, it was all about the kill. It wasn't about the experience. So,
or you get a guide or an owner of the whole outfit that's a complete dickhead, and you're just like, dude, I don't even want to be here. Like,
yeah, dude, it's terrible. I'm sure you dealt with it too. And they'll give you it for free. It'll be like a free hunt, and you're still just like, dude, I would never send somebody here. Like, this was terrible.
Oh, yeah. That's happened to me. Yep. That's not.
And that's, Bo is the same way. Do you know Bo? Like, do you know him at all?
I don't think we've ever met in person. I follow his career, like, obviously, but no, I don't think we've ever met.
He's a fucking phenomenal human, and he like loves to hunt for the right reasons, and he's the same way. Like, he's been on some of these hunts where he's, he killed like a 330 bull one time, somewhere. I'm not going to say where, because people will know who the outfit was, but he killed this big bull, and he's like, dude, I'm never going back there. That was awful. He's like, it was like a big dick contest about who killed the biggest bull. And like, that does not matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, it's cool to kill like a Boone and Crockett animal, but at the end of the day, man, like, it's about the experience, and that's what matters to me. So yeah, let's link up, man, and talk about that, because that'd be sweet. And
oh yeah, dude. I gotta get going. I didn't realize it was already freaking 12 o'clock.
Yeah, it's funny. I have another podcast I got to record right after this. I didn't realize we've been going for an hour and a half already.
That's good, dude. That's good conversation. That's when you know it's good.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate your time, brother.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Wolfe Untamed podcast. Be sure to check me out on Instagram, DerekWolf_95. Check out the Wolfe Untamed podcast on YouTube. You can listen on all the other platforms, as well as DerekWolf.com.